let's talk about anti-Semitism for a second. Last night on my podcast, Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right, Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Central, at liberaldanradio.com, I had a clear show description and things I wanted to discuss. Like, for example, what Donald Trump wants to do with the Smithsonian, about how he doesn't like that they talk about slavery and show how bad it was. And then, he wants to, not talk about the downtrodden and how they've had a problem in this country. He only wants to talk about the good stuff. He wants to whitewash the Smithsonian and talk about the great future, even though museums don't often talk about the future. They talk about the past. Anyway, not what the topic of the video is, but he's stupid. Also, I wanted to talk about voter ID laws and how I owned another conservative on a voter ID law conversation because I basically, whenever I talk about these, I'm like, my issue isn't the voter ID itself. It's all of the other provisions in these laws that, have nothing to do with the requirement to show an ID to vote. And then I will say that some idiot will come along in the comment section and say, well, what about an ID? What's so bad about showing an ID to vote? And I'll be like, and then, they'll do it. And I've called my shot. I'm like the Babe Ruth of voter ID law conversations. Anyway, again, not the point of the conversation. In comes some schmo. He starts asking me questions because we're talking about privilege as well, and, talking about, what have you done to help black people? I'm like, well, I'd have to ask black people as to what they think I've done to help black people, because I'm not going to tell them what I've done and not done. It's up to them to decide whether or not I've done a good job or not. But anyway, then he moved the goalposts, as they often do, and started asking me questions about Israel, my stance on Israel. And I'm like, look, dude, I disagree with how Netanyahu has responded to 10/7. I think that there are plenty of actions that Israel has done, including the idea that we should ethnically cleanse Gaza and move all of the Palestinians to South Sudan, which is absolute BS. I have a video about that here and on YouTube. He kept just asking me questions. He's like, why won't you talk about these things? Why won't you talk about, demanding my time to talk about these issues? I'm like, look, I have a complete playlist of many videos that I've made about these issues, and I have other videos that exist outside the playlist that also talk about these issues as well. And I've been clear in my criticisms of Israel and my criticisms of Netanyahu, etc. But he kept on, and then I went on to talk about something else, and he kept on saying, but, why won't you talk about Israel? Why won't you criticize? I'm like, I have criticized Israel multiple times. And this is the anti-Semitism issues that happen, that deal with us people who are creators who happen to be Jewish. If we're not talking about Israel 24/7, if we dare discuss other issues, and then y'all come in like, well, why aren't you talking about Israel? Why aren't you talking about Israel? If it's not related to Israel and Palestinian question, and you come onto a video like Free Palestine, well, we're not even talking about that. Y'all want us to talk about this 24/7, 365. When we talk about it a lot. I've talked about it a lot. I've been clear what my stance is. And if people are too lazy to go look up those other videos, that's not my fault. It shouldn't be my fault. And it's a ridiculous standard that we have to continuously talk about this when there are other also very important issues to talk about. And yeah, so I'll say it again. I disagree with the actions of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu after 10/7. Hell, I've been criticizing Netanyahu and the actions of Israel before 10/7. But that doesn't matter to y'all. So the anti-Semites who insist we talk about it constantly every day and have to interrupt other videos that have nothing to do with it just to be critical about why we're not talking about this now. And you don't do it to any other religion of people either. You don't do it to other people. You just come onto the Jewish pages and do it to the Jewish people. And that's why it's anti-Semitic. So if you're too lazy to go look at my other videos and see what my stances are on, the fact that, Israel wants to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians from Gaza and move them to South Sudan and how that's wrong, and all the other criticisms that I've made about Israel, then you shouldn't come on my videos that are unrelated to the Israel-Palestinian problem and demand answers from me. That's my point.